Hey York Alliance, Merry Christmas! Thanks for taking a few minutes to watch this video and get ready for what has been a long time coming, a return to the sanctuary and coming back to being able to gather in what has been a little bit more typical of a way for us, apart from the last 18 months or so. And so I just want to give you a couple first of all, pointers for coming in, particularly if you're relatively new and you haven't gathered here, or it's been a while and you forget some of the logistics. And then I'd like to just talk a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing and what some of our thought process is. So let's start with a few logistics. First of all, I'm standing right here in our lobby that's in the process of being redone. You'll still recognize it when you get here, but it's been updated and the Welcome Center has been moved over to the side. But as you walk in our front doors, you're going to walk straight down and you'll walk straight into the sanctuary. And we want to encourage you, if you are a family with kids kindergarten and older, when you come in at the 10:30, just to walk straight on in. We love the idea of families being able to worship together. In fact, one of the primary reasons we're moving back to the sanctuary is because we believe in intergenerational worship, and we don't want you to walk in and have kids go one direction and teens go another direction and adults go a third direction. We want to gather together as a family to worship. And so we're going to be able to do that. We will have care for pre-K all the way down, so birth through pre-K, both during our 8:30 and our 10:30 service. So when you come in, you're welcome to do that. Our crib nursery is literally right here. So right around the corner from me will be the entrance into the crib nursery. And so if you have youngins who aren't yet able to toddle around, this will be the best place for them. As they get really confident with toddling and starting to walk a bit, they'll go downstairs. We'll have a room in room 2 and 4, which is down in our children's wing, for pre-K and down through toddlers through pre-K, both during our 8:30 and our 10:30 gathering. But if you come to our 10:30 gathering, you're welcome to take the littlest ones to where they go, but to come in kindergarten and up into our worship gathering. And then as we worship together, there'll be a point early on, about maybe a third of the way through our worship gathering, where you'll be invited to have kids go down into their dig-in classes and to be able to connect down in those classes. And so Kristen, as well as some of our other teachers and leaders, will be ready to meet them back in the hub, which is right off of the lobby. So as you walk into the lobby to the right, there's an open area out there. That hub is an area appropriately called the hub. Lots of connection happening there. We'll have coffee in there, as well as lots of information for how you connect at York Alliance, both for the first time and in ongoing ways. All of our sign-ups will be out there, upcoming events, all of that information will be there. That will also be the place where kids will gather, and then they'll go from there downstairs into their classrooms. As a reminder, that is a locked wing, and so we do that for security purposes. And so when you go down to get your kids, you're going to need to have those security tags, which you'll be able to print out right over here at the check-in station. It'll be really, really easy for you to see as you walk in. It says kids check-in right above it. You'll be able to see all that you need to do. You can go over, check in there, get all of your tags ready to go so that kids are ready to go downstairs. And then in between our gatherings, so if you come early for the 10:30 or you stay late past the 8:30, there'll be coffee back in the hub, and you'll be able to go back there, gather, connect with one another, be able to talk, stand around tables, something like this, and be able to have some conversation. And so we'd love for you to be able to do that. We also will be live streaming our service into the hub. And so there'll be a TV there. You'll be able to see what's going on in the sanctuary. And so if you have a child that's not ready to be somewhere else yet, but needs to be with you, but maybe is getting a little fidgety and just can't really be there, we're glad to have kids in our service. We recognize kids cry and talk, and it happens. It's totally fine. But I know that sometimes as a parent that can be uncomfortable. So if you feel like it'd be better for me to go somewhere else, or if you just say, from a safety perspective, I feel better about being back in that back room, that's a way that you're going to be able to observe and engage what's going on in our worship gathering while not being physically in the sanctuary. So we would love for you to come into the sanctuary, but if that's not a good idea for you for whatever reason, we'd encourage you to go back to that live stream that's in the hub. And that leads to the idea that I'd really like to communicate clearly to you, which is that we really want you to jump in at the level you're comfortable. And we recognize that's different for everybody. We are entering into kind of a new phase of this whole COVID process where we're re-entering. We need to re-enter. Life is getting back to normal in some ways, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But there are certain things you're going to be comfortable with and others that you aren't, and that's not going to be the same for all people. And so if you're comfortable wearing a mask, wear a mask. If you're comfortable not wearing a mask, don't wear a mask. If you'd rather stay in the back or stay in the front in order to maybe not be as immediately proximate to all kinds of people around you, totally fine. We want you to do that. If you're not comfortable going back for coffee, don't go back for coffee. It's not a problem at all. We're recognizing that everybody's going to have a little bit of a different tolerance for re-entry, and we want you to be able to do that. And that leads then to kind of the big picture question. Why now? I know there's some of you who are thinking, are you kidding me? Like, we've been so careful over the last year and a half, and now the Omicron variant's here, and there's all of these new cases. Why in the world would we be going back to the sanctuary now? Well, there's a couple answers to that question. The first one's very practical. We have looked at what's going on, particularly in our 1030 down in the fellowship hall, and we've looked at what's happening, what would be happening here in the 1030. We just think, honestly, more space, more airflow because of the higher ceiling. It's probably safer in here than it is down there in that tighter space. And so we really want people to be able to engage and be able to engage well. And we think this is the best way to do that. We have added filtration, we have added ionization in order to make that space as safe as it can be. And we really think that's a great way to jump in. So that's one answer to the question. But maybe the bigger answer to the question is this. In some ways, as we look at the numbers exploding and we look at all that's going on in the news, it starts to feel like it's March 2020 again. And I think it's really important for us to recognize it's not. This is a very different moment in this pandemic journey. And I say that because of a couple things. One, in March 2020, we had no idea how the virus spread, and we had no idea how to treat the virus. Now we understand far more about it, and we understand much more how to treat it. And so the idea of passing that virus, while it still happens all the time, of course, we understand quite a bit more about it now. We know that for those who desire to utilize them, masks can be very effective to limit the spread, as well as to provide, particularly with a high quality mask, an additional level of safety for the ones who are wearing the mask. And so we know that that's true. Not everybody's going to choose to do that, and we totally get that, and we're not requiring it, but it is something that people can choose to do. But probably the biggest change between then and now is the fact that vaccines are widely available and open for everyone. And the original thing that vaccines were intended to do, which was to in almost all cases eliminate severe sickness and death as it relates to COVID. Vaccines are doing an incredibly good job of that. Now, I want to say, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not trying to give you medical advice. It is totally your call as you research to make a decision as to whether or not you want to be vaccinated. My goal isn't to tell you you need to be vaccinated. My goal is to tell you it's an option for everybody. Now we are at the place where everyone can choose. And that's really the bottom line for us. We want to have everybody be able to choose the level of safety that they feel is appropriate for them and for their family, and we want people to be able to choose to gather together. The bottom line is we don't see this going away anytime soon. The pandemic, while we've entered a new phase of it, doesn't seem to be disappearing in a couple months, maybe not even this year. We need to learn to live with it, and part of the process of learning to live with it is learning to gather again in safe and appropriate ways, at ways that we are able to engage. And so I want to invite you to do that. I also want to say, if you have questions about that, I'm really glad to answer those questions. I did a podcast. Some of you know I do a daily devotional podcast, and last week I did a podcast simply called Returning to the Sanctuary, answering some of those questions and talking a bit more about why we're doing what we're doing and how we've made some of those decisions. And so if you're curious about that, I would encourage you to go back. You can go onto our website and you can find those daily devotionals. You can go find that, listen to that, and to engage that. But our goal is, as we gather in this larger room, if you want to wear a mask, please wear a mask. We think that's great. If you don't want to wear a mask, then I would encourage you to not wear a mask. That's totally fine. Our recommendation is that you would be safe for where you're at your tolerance level. But what we really want is to be able to be together and to worship, to be able to get to know one another in real ways, to be able to connect as a church, because we believe that that's a key part of our physical life, but certainly our spiritual life as we grow closer to Jesus. And so I want to encourage you to step into that. Please ask questions. If you have them, I'm glad to answer them one-to-one. You can send me an email, bcannell@yorkalliance.org. Glad to answer those as well. Give me a call, whatever works the best for you. I'm glad to be able to engage you in the process. Any of our leaders as well. We're excited. We're excited to finally be coming back, and we're excited to be able to step in and engage corporately the life of Christ together. And so I hope you have a really wonderful Christmas. I hope to see many of you Friday night for Christmas Eve, Sunday the 26th, and then moving forward as we together celebrate the birth of Jesus, the incarnation, and all that means for us. And so have a wonderful Christmas. May the grace and peace of Jesus be with you.